On January 12, 2023, a devastating multi-vehicle crash occurred on an Arizona highway, resulting in the deaths of 5 people. The incident, which took place in Chandler, Arizona, was caused by a semi-truck driver who was distracted by social media while operating his vehicle. This tragic event serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of distracted driving and the severe consequences that can result from a moment of inattention. The driver responsible for the crash was Danny Tyner, who was behind the wheel of a semi-tractor trailer hauling garbage. As Tyner approached a construction zone with a posted speed limit of 55 miles per hour, he was traveling at 68 miles per hour. Tragically, he failed to notice that traffic ahead had come to a complete stop. The resulting collision involved 6 vehicles and caused a fiery pileup that claimed multiple lives. The sequence of events leading to the crash began when Tyner, by his own admission, glanced down at his tablet mounted on the dashboard. He had received a notification, which prompted him to look away from the road. In those few critical seconds, the traffic ahead had come to a standstill. When Tyner looked up, he was confronted with a wall of brake lights. Despite slamming on his brakes, the momentum of the fully loaded garbage truck was too great to stop in time. The impact of Tyner's semi-truck caused a catastrophic chain reaction. His vehicle slammed into several cars, sandwiching them between his truck and another semi-truck that had already stopped. The force of the collision was so severe that it caused vehicles to burst into flames, creating a horrific scene for first responders who quickly arrived at the site. Body camera footage from the responding officers captured the chaotic aftermath of the crash. The video reveals a scene of utter devastation, with mangled vehicles, flames, and thick smoke. First responders can be heard discussing the extent of the damage and the potential number of casualties. One officer is heard saying, "That whole SUV is gone," highlighting the severity of the impact. In the immediate aftermath of the crash, Tyner emerged from his vehicle, visibly shaken. He told officers, "I can't see right, everything flew off, my hat, my headset, everything." When questioned about what happened, Tyner initially claimed, "All I did was look down real quick, looked up, and they were all right there and I slammed on my brakes." As the investigation unfolded, more details came to light. The driver of the semi-truck that Tyner crashed into provided his account of the events. He explained that he had been driving for about 2 hours when he encountered traffic congestion. Following proper safety protocols, he slowed down, came to a complete stop, and activated his hazard lights to warn vehicles behind him. Moments later, he felt a tremendous impact as Tyner's truck collided with his vehicle. The investigation into the crash was thorough and meticulous. Law enforcement officers interviewed multiple witnesses and examined physical evidence at the scene. They also conducted detailed interviews with Tyner, pieced together the events leading up to the collision. During these interviews, Tyner provided more information about his actions prior to the crash. He stated that he woke up around 4:30 a.m. that morning and drove to work from his home in Surprise, Arizona. He mentioned that he had worked the previous day, getting off work around 2 or 3 p.m. Tyner claimed that he typically sets his cruise control and keeps his foot hovering over the brake pedal, a habit he developed from his years of experience as a truck driver. When questioned about his use of electronic devices, Tyner initially downplayed the role of distraction in the crash. He mentioned that his tablet, which is mounted on the dashboard, had made a noise, prompting him to glance at it briefly. He insisted that this was a quick look, and that when he returned his attention to the road, he immediately saw brake lights and attempted to stop. However, as the investigation progressed, a different picture emerged. Authorities determined that Tyner had not just glanced at his tablet, but had been actively using the social media app TikTok at the time of the crash. This revelation transformed the incident from a tragic accident to a case of criminal negligence. The use of social media while driving a commercial vehicle is not only against company policies, but is also illegal in many jurisdictions. It represents a severe breach of the trust placed in commercial drivers, who are responsible for operating large, potentially dangerous vehicles on public roads. The aftermath of the crash was devastating for the families of the 5 individuals who lost their lives. The community was shocked by the senseless loss of life, and the incident sparked conversations about the need for stricter enforcement of distracted driving laws, especially for commercial vehicle operators. In the months following the crash, as the investigation concluded, legal proceedings began against Danny Tyner. In June 2023, approximately 5 months after the incident, Tyner was arrested and charged with multiple counts of negligent homicide. The legal process moved forward, and Tyner eventually pleaded guilty to 5 counts of negligent homicide. This plea acknowledged his responsibility for the deaths caused by his actions on that fateful day in January. In February 2024, more than a year after the crash, Tyner was sentenced for his crime. The court handed down a sentence of 4.5 years, each count of negligent homicide. With 5 counts, this resulted in a total sentence of 22.5 years in prison. The severity of the sentence reflects the gravity of Tyner's actions and the devastating consequences they had on multiple families and the community at large. The attorney representing Hawkins in both his criminal case and divorce proceeding, Christopher S. Stoll, has stated that Rachel Perez Hawkins is not a credible witness and is highly manipulative. However, supporters of Rachel argue that her actions are those of a mother desperately trying to protect her children from a man accused of serious crimes against minors. As the case unfolds, it continues to raise important questions about the balance between parental rights, child protection, and the role of the justice system in family disputes. Critics argue that the current system may be prioritizing the concept of parental rights over the safety and well-being of children, particularly in cases where there are allegations of abuse. The controversy surrounding this case has also sparked a broader discussion about the treatment of abuse allegations within the family court system. Advocates for reform argue that there is often a tendency to downplay or dismiss allegations of abuse, particularly when the accused is a person of standing in the community, such as a former police officer. Legal experts have pointed out the challenges faced by family court judges in these situations. They must balance the presumption of innocence for the accused with the paramount importance of child safety. However, many argue that in cases where there are credible allegations of abuse, the safety of the children should be the primary consideration, even if it means limiting contact with a parent. The case has also highlighted the potential long-term impacts of trauma on both victims and perpetrators of abuse. Hawkins' alleged descent from decorated hero to accused child abuser, possibly influenced by PTSD from his experiences as a first responder, underscores the complex interplay between trauma, mental health, and abusive behavior. As Rachel Perez Hawkins continues to serve her weekend jail sentences, she has reported speaking with other women inside the jail who are dealing with similar issues related to court-ordered reunification therapy. This has led to calls for a broader investigation into the use of such programs, particularly in cases involving allegations of abuse. The case remains ongoing, with both the criminal proceedings against Michael Hawkins and the custody battle over the youngest children still to be resolved. Whatever the outcome, this case has already had a significant impact, sparking important conversations about child protection, the rights of accused parents, and the responsibilities of the justice system in navigating these complex and emotionally charged situations. In the wake of this tragedy, there have been renewed calls for tech companies to implement more stringent controls on their apps, particularly when used in moving vehicles. Some advocates argue that apps like TikTok should have built-in features that prevent their use while traveling at high speeds, similar to existing features in some navigation apps. The incident has also sparked debates about the pressure placed on truck drivers to meet tight delivery schedules, which some argue can contribute to risky behaviors like speeding or distracted driving. Industry experts are calling for a reevaluation of scheduling practices and workload expectations for commercial drivers to ensure they can perform their jobs safely without feeling rushed or overtired. As the community continues to grapple with the aftermath of this tragic event, there is hope that some good can come from such a devastating loss. Increased awareness, stricter regulations, better training, and technological innovations may help prevent similar incidents in the future. However, the most powerful deterrent may be the story of this crash itself. a stark reminder of how quickly lives can be shattered by a moment of distraction. The case of Danny Tyner and the 5 lives lost on that Arizona highway will likely be remembered as a turning point in the fight against distracted driving. It serves as a somber reminder that behind the wheel, especially of a large commercial vehicle, there is no such thing as a harmless glance at a phone or tablet. The responsibility carried by drivers is immense, and the consequences of neglecting that responsibility can be catastrophic. As society becomes increasingly connected and reliant on digital devices, cases like this underscore the critical importance of maintaining focus on the task of driving. Whether through legal measures, technological solutions, or a fundamental shift in cultural attitudes towards device use while driving, preventing similar tragedies must remain a top priority for communities, lawmakers, and the transportation industry as a whole. The legacy of this crash will be measured not only in the lives lost and the years of imprisonment handed down, but also in the changes it inspires in driver behavior, industry practices, and public policy. If these changes can prevent even one similar incident in the future, then perhaps some small measure of meaning can be found in this otherwise senseless tragedy.